Hello and welcome to Business Journey with Atlas. On Business Journey, we discuss how-tos for setting up and growing your business, as well as identify potential pitfalls that you may run into and how to address them. On Business Journey today, we have my dear friend and client, Cheryl Mazisco. She's the CEO and founder of Ideal Harvest. Welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me.
Before we jump in, would you just tell everybody briefly, what does Ideal Harvest do?
So we help companies who are in the cannabis industry space in manufacturing, dispensary, and cultivation facilities. We help them with everything from their equipment needs to all of the service needs, their HR, their grow consulting, their business process, workflow, all of it.
What I love about having Ideal Harvest on the show is they're a product as well as a service firm. And today we're going to be talking about marketing, which is the lifeblood of a business. And for that, we have business partner Erin Beckstein, and then there's myself. We are both with Crazy Good Marketing.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Welcome. All right, so here's the thing about marketing, just before we jump in. I want to make sure everybody knows. Marketing really is the lifeblood of your business, very critical function. One of the things a lot of individuals don't necessarily realize is marketing actually includes sales. So we know that it's about the brand. We know it's about connecting with your audience. We know that it gives people confidence to try and buy your product or service, but it also includes sales. And particularly, we tend to think about sales just from what people do in a person-to-person or a direct sale model, but you have all kinds of channels. You have potential OEM resale arrangements. You also have, from a sales perspective, you can sell online, all of your social media. People can buy products and services online, and we all do it each and every day, and marketing is who manages those. So with that, we're going to jump in because we have a tremendous amount of topics for our show today.
Lots to cover.
All right, so we're going to start just a little bit at the top line. We're going to start with budget. And it's kind of an awkward thing to start with, isn't it? Like budget before you know everything that's there. Here's the thing about budget. Just so you know, according to the CMO survey, and they do this with Deloitte, I want you to know that the percentage of spend for marketing for most firms is going up. And it is around 12% of your total revenues. Now what's interesting is on consumer packaged goods, it's almost close to 25%.
Wow.
So Cheryl, just in terms of overall, you have a budget. How'd you go about setting your budget? And you're in the startup mode. How'd you go about that? And what would you say as a percentage? Where would you put your budget?
Well, I'm trying to do that math in my head while you were saying that. We budgeted about $15,000 a month. That was based on a discussion that you and I had initially, and the fact that we are a little bit hamstringed right now because we are a startup. So that will continue to grow as our revenue continues to grow. I place great importance on marketing as a function of sales, so that's definitely an area that I would want to be spending in. But right now we're at $15,000 a month, which I'll have to get back to you on the percentage.
Okay. Actually, I love that you're willing to share the number. And just so you know, a lot of firms, you're so busy getting your product out that you don't, product or service, you don't put the money into marketing, but you need to, and you need to start building it, because otherwise there's some things that can get you on the backside, because it's really important. All right.
Yeah, and as we continue that conversation from budget and how that segues in and saying how much are you spending, it's also important to stop and say, who is your market? Who are you selling to? Let's start high level and identify who your target audience is, and then how you're going to engage with them. So when you started that thought process, where is your market? Where do you find them?
Well, it's very interesting, I think, in my industry, which may be slightly different from everyone's, but I think a lot of the same principles apply. In a very short time period, we've been around now a little over 3 years. Our who we are marketing to and who our target clients are have changed dramatically. Part of that is the growth of the industry. It's gone from something that's sort of very underground and very driven by the people with the expertise, the growers within the market. And that is quickly changing into more of the business financial sector because so many people are getting involved in the industry, especially with the legalization in Canada, etc. So ours has changed actually, even in that short 3-year period, it's changed dramatically as far as who we would market to. I think now it's a nice combination of both. It's getting more into the business and finance. And so we've actually, I think during that time period, slightly changed our messaging and what we're saying in order to bring in those new components.
So not only is your message changed for your target audience, you have the opportunity to advocate for the industry and get out and speak to elected officials, to different audiences, really sharing more about the industry and the opportunity. So have you brought that into your marketing strategy?
Yes, I think education within our industry is a huge factor, especially for us. One of the things I didn't mention in describing the business is we do have a patented piece of equipment that is completely innovative and revolutionary to the market. Even though people can see the value of basically the piece of equipment delivers more output. People see the value of that, but they're very concerned and worried about taking that leap because there is a lot of money within the industry. So I think education, advocacy for new technology and innovation within the market is huge as a function of what we do in our marketing platforms. We always have to be paying attention to that.
So by the way, what I think is interesting about this, so you're identifying your market, which is something that you all need to do. Who are you going to sell to? And each of your markets have different needs. There are times that you have the financial side, and then you have the grower. And as far as digging into that a little bit, the other thing that I love that you brought this up is the advocacy and the education. When you think about education, you have to educate about your product, right? So whatever it is that you're selling, now you're selling something that's unique and vertical grow. It's new. There are others that have classically done horizontal grow. So you're bringing new innovative technologies and they need to be comfortable. So you have to educate them on your brand. You have to educate them on your technology. But the other thing that you have to do, depending on who you're selling to, is you have to educate them on the industry. Because you have people in the financial markets that have no idea how cannabis and hemp actually work, regulations around it. They see opportunities.
Yes, and I think also because we are a service provider and an equipment provider, the message can be just so broad and wide ranging. So what I have found most challenging is targeting messages for those different segments of who we're selling to. We're not a company that has one widget that can just sell one message to one huge group of people, right? So we really do have to work a lot on marketing the right message and making sure that it is resonating with whoever our market or whoever our viewer is at that particular time.
By the way, in starting out, your market is, what's your geography? Because that's the other thing to it.
Yeah, again, something kind of unique to our industry, but certainly that applies maybe to even larger organizations. Our market is wherever it's legal, which means it's sporadically, spaced out in the U.S. in a bunch of different states. Also Canada, Latin America, big presence in Israel. So it's, when you launched our company, it was like launching a worldwide company overnight. So that's definitely been a challenge too, because different markets have different cultural references when it comes to marketing. So it's always a challenge to find the right message for the right area. And we have to be very conscious and mindful of what we're saying and doing out there.
And from our perspective, from a marketing agency, when we work with clients such as yourself, that's a great indicator that we like to create personas, if you will. So understanding that you're working with different cultures, different geographies, different audiences, it's very helpful to say, this is what this persona looks like in this target area. So then creating those key messages, you can make sure what you want to say is actually what you are saying in the right place at the right time.
Right.
That's an excellent point. And by the way, while we're going through this, we want you to think about these questions for yourself and for your business, because your example, you can have exactly the same product. Think about this for a moment. You're selling something for a child, but you have to have a different message for the child versus the parent. And that's the same thing, and we don't slow down and think about that, but it's really about getting the message to the right audience in the right ways. That's what marketing helps with. And one other thing that I want to comment for everyone, Cheryl has graciously agreed to do the business journey with us throughout. And part of the reason why is in the industry, she also wants to help in the education on business. That's one of her commitments as a company, is she wants to help others in the industry to set up and build their businesses. So thank you for that, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about one other one, because you're talking about something special. What about competition? Do you have competition, and who's your competition?
Yes, I don't think there is an industry that doesn't have competition somewhere. I mean, we have a mixed competition, and by that I mean, on the one hand, there are other groups out there who do exactly what we do. Now, because we have a unique proprietary piece of equipment, what we do is definitely different from others, and it is a very young industry, so you don't have a lot of established players in it. So we do have competition for sure, but we also have a somewhat unique spot. But we have to act like we don't, right? Because there's always the decision by an owner to go one way or the other is often dependent upon what they perceive you to be in your marketing. So we have to not just assume that because we have this unique piece of equipment that we're automatically going to get an audience for it. So we do have to pretend as if we have no competition whatsoever. I mean, we have to pretend that everybody is our competitor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, at the end of the day, with competition, sometimes with what someone does is doing nothing at all is a competitive posture for a product. You can make my life better, but do I really want that? So it comes down to when we talk about feature benefits. And just so you know, little tidbit here, feature benefits. If you are selling to a consumer, consumers actually tend to buy more on benefits, and businesses tend to buy more on features. Let me explain that. A feature is, for example, this is my got moment. I can drink coffee with a lid. It comes with a lid, right? So this is a feature. The benefit, if we begin to say with coffee has a benefit that theoretically it can give me bounce, give me a little more energy, maybe help me eat a little bit less. So when consumers are buying, they buy based on the benefit versus businesses who are they look for the features to get to the benefits. So something for you to keep in mind when you're thinking about competition. Now, one thing that I want to say, you have a vertical growth system. There are other vertical growth systems. You have a patent. What makes you unique? What's your messaging around that?
Well, really, what's specific to our type of vertical growing is that we are literally flipping what is called canopy in our industry, which is the amount of output or product that you have. We are flipping that vertically. Whereas the competitors who are offering a vertical grow are actually still horizontally growing, but they're just stacking them vertically. So there's a big difference, and there's a lot of benefits that you get from flipping that canopy vertically, mainly in sustainability. So better use of energy. We are basically doubling for every watt that you're spending in a facility. We're actually doubling the benefit to the growers because we're lighting 2 canopies instead of 1. Things like that, labor reduction cost, etc. So there are definitely actually even benefits to each of the individual features that we have. One thing I think that's interesting, and it might be helpful, I'm not sure, to your audience, is that I think there's also a difference, or at least I've sensed a difference in marketing something that is relatively easy to purchase, like a cup of coffee, versus our systems, which can be, an entire project can be in the millions of dollars. So we have recently sort of tried to move from here are all the features of the system, because we did need to educate the market on what was actually happening in a true vertical grow. On the other hand, now we're looking at people asking more about, well, if I'm going to spend that money, what is the benefit to me? What am I going to get out of spending more money on your system as opposed to someone else's? So I think that, that's a big challenge too. I think that the cost of your item that you're selling makes a big difference in the messaging of your marketing. So, I think it'd be interesting maybe to talk a little bit about that as well, and how you can change the message. And you're still talking about features and benefits, but $1 million versus, a $5 cup of coffee is definitely different to your consumer and your client.
And you have that message, and it sounds like you put a lot of thought, you understand, you're able to communicate with your audiences what your unique proposition is. But now changing that and saying, how are you getting that message out? Because that's very important in marketing. There's many ways, whether it's social media, which I'm assuming that social media is a portion, but not
Huge
your-
in our industry,
Yeah,
actually.
So the different areas, how are you getting that message out?
Well, we definitely have, I mean, we've done everything. We've done some trade shows. We've done a sprinkling, I would say, of a lot of different things to see where we're most effective. Because again, we don't have a track record in this industry. So we've done some trade shows. We definitely got some brand awareness off of that because we do have a unique proposition. People tended to gravitate to learn more about what this was. I've done a lot of speaking engagements. I've definitely put myself out there for interviews and you know, commenting on different things that I see out in the marketplace, trying to educate the public for certain. And then I think also the social media, as I said, is huge in our industry. It's a very, you know, partly because of the nature of the industry and it's sort of being, even though it is legal in the states that we operate in, it's still considered a little bit underground. So you know, you don't have the normal avenues of television advertising or some of the other things. So social media has become huge. It's also the target age group, I would say, for this industry. So that it lends itself well to that. So I spend a lot of time also commenting and educating the public or our potential clients through social media as well, posting articles and commenting on things, etc.
By the way, along those lines with channels, and you're in the $1 million range, so we did work through things. One is at $1 million, you were in a direct sales structure. Doesn't mean you can't OEM some of your services, which you do, but you are definitely in a direct sales structure, and it's exactly what you said for connecting with your audience on all the channels. Just as far as a comment, sometimes when you start a business, you may think you're going to go down one path, but your market is going to actually define your messaging and how you engage with them, and you need to pay attention. When Cheryl first started, Cheryl is very effective with social media. She's on it. She's engaged with it. There are some clients that we work with, they're just not as comfortable with it. And that's okay. Get someone who's going to cover it for you and take care of it. Now, the other part of it, I love that you're out teaching, talking, and getting interviewed. When Cheryl first started her business, that really wasn't her approach. Cheryl's the kind of person that she likes to elevate others around her, is what I can tell you. She's always, we'll talk to this person, that person's the expert, and she's a fantastic connector. But what she's realized with her business is that she had to change her role and become that expert. So tell us a little bit about that if you don't mind, because I think that happens more often than people realize.
Yeah, I would say that I was very comfortable talking about my business, talking about all the benefits on a one-to-one sort of environment. Really connected with people that way. And it's completely different. So that was a big leap. It was a little bit of a scary thing, you know, to have to get up and talk. I always see myself as a very talkative person, but when you're standing in front of a large audience and they're going to start drilling questions at you, it was a little bit intimidating at first. But I realized that, you know, as long as I tailored the way in which I presented to people in large groups to my personality, so make it more of a dialogue, make it more of an interactive sort of thing, I felt more comfortable in it. And as I felt more comfortable, I was able to grow and expand past that. But I think what you have to do when you make the decision as the head of a company to be the face of the company, which is most often the role of the CEO.
Right.
You have to start with what you know, but then be willing to kind of put yourself out there and grow in that role. Because I think a lot of CEOs don't take on that role, and people look to them for that role. They're the vision, typically the vision of their company. They're the vision or the face of their company to their clients, etc. So that was something I had to just grab a hold of and just get going on it. And now it's very effective. Now, you know, once you kind of get some of that traction, then it becomes easier. People come to you more, and it becomes fun. So that's kind of been my journey, and I think it's really helped the business, and it's helped me grow as a CEO as well.
I'm going to tell you, I think you have stepped up beautifully. You do
thank
a
you.
fantastic job. And something for you to think about, when you think about marketing, and because social media, it's one of the most cost-effective channels you can use, you have to get to a place that you have a voice that's a one-to-many. And then at the same time, you've got the one-to-one that you do, but it's picking the right places where you have that personal touch, and you totally have to be in the one-to-many and be able to connect. So,
And one thing I will
Yeah.
mention is you're saying that the one to many. As a CEO, as a company's grown, I've gotten busier and busier, and that's become a lifeline to be able to still reach out to people and connect, because I can't have as many one-on-one conversations as I used to have, and so it's a great way to meet new people and to have that interaction when you're doing the one to many. So
and one other thing that I want to say, because you're talking about channels, Erin, is obviously Cheryl, because of the industry, a lot of the leads have come her way because of the relationships that we have. She has, and that's, by the way, that's what happens for us CEOs. It starts there, but quite a bit because you stepped into your online presence so strongly. She gets quite a few leads online, and with all of the different things that she's creating, that brand awareness when she's talking and getting those touch points. So ask yourself about your customer life cycle, how you're getting that connection to prospects, and how you are converting them to true leads and then to customers. You kind of have to go through that. So kudos to you that you have such a great online presence, and it's making a big difference in the business.
Thank you. And I would say to those out there is you do have to, when you market in that way, if you will, you do have to not fall back on the standard ways of doing things. And by that I mean you're not on social media just to pound away a sale. Not just to say, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. That's really annoying.
Oh, it's crazy annoying. And a lot of people do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
But it does provide a great platform to start dialogue, to educate, to advocate. And what I have found, which was perhaps somewhat surprising to me, is that has become much more effective than just trying to say, buy my stuff. It's great. I promise, believe me. When you get involved in conversations, I think it's much more effective on social media, and people respond to it, and they get an affinity or a connection with you and what your business is about.
And what I hear and what I know of you is that it is a journey that when you first start off, you may think that your audience is one place and you're trying to communicate them here. But I know that you've been very open. You've been evaluating the landscape and saying, where does it make sense to have the conversations? How do I expand out to get to my audience in the right way? Which that's very important, just like you said,
Yes.
educating and not pounding the sale. But what was that experience for you as you came in and you're starting this and saying, I want to go down this road? How were you shaped by the influences, by the conversations and people to help you find a little bit better of an avenue to have these conversations?
Well, I think for me, I would say that I'm a big believer in customer discovery. So not just creating something in a business and saying, oh, everybody's going to love it. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about it, but I'm sure they're going to love it. I come from the business school, if you will, that you need to go out into the marketplace and talk to your customers, see what they need, see what they want, and then design the solution around that. I think that's the only effective way to come up with products that people really are engaged with and really find value in, right? So don't design for yourself. So I think social media gave me that platform to be able to get that customer interaction. So I was able to go out on our different media channels and say, throw out a question and get feedback from somebody. And, I think that, at least for us in this industry, I would say that they were never really there, but gone are the days when you can kind of just purely advertise to people.
Yep.
They want
That's
to
right.
learn, they want to have discussions,
That's
they
right.
want to feel comfortable with you, the company, and what you have to offer. And so I think that's the great equalizer with social media, is that you can reach each and every person just by throwing out questions or asking for feedback. So that was, I get a lot of information from my clients via social media. And I am able to see exactly what they care about and what I need to address. So.
By the way, what Cheryl to me is describing and what you need to think about when you are doing marketing and you are trying to get the connectivity, because ultimately you do want to sell something, it's about relationships. I don't care if you are selling coffee or you are selling $1 million system, it's about creating a relationship. It's not just about pushing a product, and you always want to remember that. Now, there's one other thing that you've done a little bit differently. So we've kind of come through in the reinforcement of we have here's our product, who are our customers, these are things that you want to consider, what are the channels that you're going to use to reach them, and then the other thing is understanding our competition, the market, and everything that we're in. Part of the lay of the land with our messaging also comes down to branding. And this is a big mistake a lot of companies make. They start, but they don't get a brand. And your name matters. Your name, your tagline, your identity, getting everything in place. There's a lot of companies that just start and they kind of ignore all that. And then they have to come back through and do cleanup. And little tips of get your name, get your social media channels, whether you're going to use them or not. Pick out your URL. It matters to your online presence, and every business, I'm going to tell you, needs an online presence. And whether you think you have one or not, you do. Now, sometimes what you do is you create a brand, you buy a brand. What I love about Ideal Harvest, which is a fantastic brand, you did both.
We try our best to get all the ground covered. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I had started up Ideal Harvest out of another organization. You know, we wanted to create our own identity through our branding. So that was something obviously you guys worked on with me, and it was a huge way for us initially to get recognition because we were so different from others that were doing it at the time. They would be like, oh, this is interesting, and I think it resonated with them more. But about 2 years after we originally started the business, I acquired the business from that original business that I worked with, and I felt it was important both for that brand awareness. People had already noticed our logo. We spent a lot of time and a lot of hard work on getting that branding and getting the right it sounds a little bit obsessive, but the right colors, the right look, all of that, especially in this industry, we had to fight against an established brand, which is kind of that hippy dippy, sort of traditional, historic vision of the industry. So we wanted to do something really different. So we felt it was important to actually buy the brand from the company, and that was part of the acquisition that I went through, is to make sure that we had that track record of the projects that we'd already executed, but also I so loved our brand and what it had done for us in the marketplace and the recognition that I felt it was important that we have that as well. So
one of the things that you did with the brand, so it was created then exactly when you started. When you took ownership of the company, you purchased it, you brought it forward with the patents, technology, and everything. So she kind of created it in-house. What I love about what you did with the brand and what you need to think about, sometimes when people are pushing on their brand, they don't think about their future. You've got to think about where you're going to go. Your brand needs to have longevity. You can change taglines, but changing the company name is really hard, particularly once you have equity in it. And then when you have your online presence, it's a very difficult thing to change. What I love about Ideal Harvest is you actually created a brand that you brought professionalism. So you let them know you were serious about business, but you also have a brand that gives you the ability to go into other markets. And specifically one of the things that Cheryl has talked about, because she has a unique technology for vertical growth. Today she is committed and striving to work deeply across the globe in the cannabis market, but she could also go to growing vegetables, fruits, vegetables. Imagine a future where you go to a restaurant and they actually have their own garden in their basement that they're growing, and they're using the Ideal Harvest system. So her system actually works across a wide range of things that you can grow, which is, I think, is pretty awesome.
Yep, and that was a lot. We put a lot of thought into that early on, and not trying to get very cannabis specific sort of wording or look. And we always knew that. I think as a CEO, when you think about your marketing, to your point, you do have to think about what am I now and what am I going to be, and how can I use this all the way through? Because again, a lot of people, they pick up on key buzzwords. Ideal Harvest being one. I mean, everybody knows the association with vertical and that.
Yeah.
Again, the colors and the logos, and I think what I really liked about the colors of the logo as well is that it broadened it out of a very male dominated thing too. I think we've used some softer colors and things like that, which I thought was important as a woman business owner.
Very.
And true vertical and all of those vertical type words, I would not want to lose that because that is our identity out there. And to date, even though we have done marketing stuff, we've done a lot of social media, it has been a lot of organic marketing and a lot of word of mouth. And it matters what your brand is and what you look like and what you do with it definitely matters. And I don't know that everybody believes that enough yet.
It totally does. That's why we care about how we dress. When you get up every day, you care. When you think about what you're wearing when you go to one event versus another, it's the same thing with brand.
With a brand, it's the consistency. You mentioned it when you're using the same colors and the same voice and the same tone and the same key messages and the same key words, bringing it down to the specific words that you're saying in your messaging.
Yeah.
That's what helps with the brand and helps you establish a new identity. So I've seen that in the marketing materials that we're using for you and the messaging to help expand who you are in the marketing.
Yeah,
in
they're
the
not going to
marketplace.
remember that entire paragraph that you
No.
told them. They're going to remember that
That's
beautiful logo.
That's exactly. By the way, and then they'll recognize it. Well, we are going to be running out of time, but before we do, I have one last thing here is if you had some do-overs with marketing, like right now, because obviously when you're starting a business, you don't have the luxury of the big budgets. You have to kind of focus. What would be a do-over for you at this stage?
I would say we've done everything we could as a company. However, if I could do it over, I would have probably put more money towards that. Like, I do think it's really important, and we've gotten where we are, like I said, based on that organic marketing, but I do think that if I had jumped into the speaking earlier, if I had done more in the early days, putting a little bit more money toward marketing, doing mailers, things like that, more that guerrilla marketing to get us off the ground. I wish I'd done more of that because I can definitely see when we do something, the uptick in leads or in engagement with our company. And when we're not doing something, I definitely see it go down. So, having that consistent, even if I had spent less money on it, but done it over a long, more consistent period.
Exactly.
I think that would be my do-over.
And only one other thing to add on that really quickly that you mentioned that's important is the metrics aspect. You mentioned when you do things, you see things uptick, and then when you drop down. But that's really important that everyone should be considering what are the metrics that are driving my marketing efforts and make sure that you're clear in identifying what those goals are. You're investing a lot of money, so you want to make sure that you're using that money to the best of its ability and driving results.
Yeah, and I would also say make sure it's not just about the revenue of your company, because I know that especially with us, because we are larger projects, fewer and far between, it's important that we notice all the metrics, like more social engagement on the social media platforms, or even brand or name recognition. How many times or how many more times I'm asked to speak. You have to take into account all of that. I do think I will say that I think marketing is not just because I'm sitting here with you guys, but I think that marketing is sort of the unsung hero of every business. People don't want to put money into it. They think that it's just going to kind of happen. And it is so intentional, and you really do need to pay attention to it. Word of mouth is great, and you want great customer feedback, and you want people saying good things about you. On the other hand, there's just too much information, too many things going on in our world today. You need to be very intentional about it, and you need to communicate through marketing with your potential clients.
You know what, you brought us right back to the beginning, because we talked about how all these companies are increasing their marketing budget. And marketing is very specialized. What somebody who is a specialist in SEO is very different than somebody who knows how to sell versus somebody who knows how to develop a website versus writing copy. But it is very much an important thing that you need to do. And along those lines, if you do visit us online after the show, you will get a list of kind of like some of the missteps that you can make in marketing that you definitely want to avoid. So do find us online. We air the fourth Wednesday of every month at 12 noon Mountain Time. And if you miss a show, don't worry about it. You can get the video. We're on Facebook at Atlas Business Journey, and it's all one word. So go to facebook.com/Atlas Business Journey, or visit us on our website at atlascpas.com. atlascpas.com, and that is with an S, atlascpas.com/business journey to watch past episodes. On this show, remember that we cover all the how-tos for starting your business, growing your business, as well as what are some of the missteps you can make. We do cover everything from finance to marketing to HR. So join us, and thank you again for being here today. And thank you
Absolutely.
for being with us, Cheryl.
Thanks for having me.